Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First tonight, a cyber attack launched on the world's biggest meat processor has left hundreds of Tasmanian meat workers in the dark about when they will be able to return to work. With the source of the shutdown not yet known, it has also led to rising concerns about international meat supply.
The world's largest meat processor affected by a cyber attack, with more than 10,000 staff stood down at 47 sites. 300 of them work here at JBS Swift Longford.
If this is a ransomware attack, this could go on for weeks, if not longer.
JBS is urgently trying to restore its worldwide IT systems, hosted in the US. That includes the processing of stock as well as payroll.
Pretty lost at the moment because there's no end date. It's not like they've been stood down for 3 days or 4 days. It's just day by day.
The Tasmanian branch of the Meat Workers Union says that JBS has communicated well with employees, who are expecting to be paid by a manual system tomorrow. Half the workforce will also return for the day to process remaining meat.
We've been advised by JBS that those employees that have been stood down will have access to their entitlements. We are hoping to see a limited production up and going in the next couple of days, and then obviously ramped up as we're able to fix this cyber attack as quickly as possible.
Employees will be able to access Centrelink and are eligible for retraining funds should the saga drag on. The source of the ransomware attack is unclear.
They're putting in place measures to address that as soon as possible, and they've also had some federal government support through the Australian Federal Police.
The Meat Industry Council insists there's no indication at this stage of any major impact on the supply of red meat and pork products. But with JBS being a major supplier...
If this goes on for too long, you're talking 500 animals a day which are processed at JBS that aren't going to be out there in the market. That's just Tasmania.
Consumers too could be affected. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian environmentalists fighting against commercial developments in the World Heritage listed area have slammed a long-awaited tourism blueprint. The state government today releasing its vision for the future for the unique wilderness sites 7 years in the making.
Surrounded by lush ferns, trickling creeks and spectacular waterfalls, this busy tourism operator preparing for an influx of explorers here at Mountfield.
The visitation figures have been very, very high and very strong, and that's led to a number of obviously pressure issues.
To keep up with the demand, a new but significantly delayed tourism master plan has finally been unveiled, detailing a framework for creating new experiences and facilities and improving existing spots within the 1.58 million hectare World Heritage area.
A plan that considers the culturally sensitive as well as the environmental, sustainable, outstanding universal values.
It provides us with very clear guidance about how we should work with the Aboriginal community to engage with them more, to ensure that their vision for the Twa is upheld and that they have greater involvement in decision making.
While aiming to attract more visitors to Tasmania's most picturesque locations.
We have an enormous stake in making sure that the tourism that goes on in the Twa is responsible, it's sensible, it's appropriate, but also that we can provide the sort of experiences and services that will keep attracting visitors to these areas for generations to come.
The master plan includes improvements to amenities here at Mountfield, as well as Lake St Clair and Cradle Mountain. But it's unwelcome news for environmentalists, long fighting commercial developments in Tasmania's World Heritage sites.
These areas are for all Tasmanians, they're for all Australians. Indeed, these areas are for all citizens on this planet. They shouldn't be set aside for exclusive access for the wealthy.
Saying the plan is a privatisation of parks, that government has profit at the top of its agenda, and vulnerable wilderness instead needs to be protected. That includes in the air, the report reviewing aircraft access, already contentious following severe backlash against a helicopter tourism proposal at Lake Malbina.
If Lake Malbina went ahead, about 5,000 hectares of World Heritage wilderness, the world's highest rated World Heritage wilderness, would be degraded, so that's the reality.
We want to ensure that any tourism development in the Twa is environmentally sustainable as well as culturally sensitive.
Ruby Kamain, 7 Tasmania News.
Outside court, distraught friends and family of a teenager killed by a dangerous driver have lashed out. Elizabeth Ann Quill received a 3-month suspended sentence for the 2018 Christmas Day crash, prompting a tirade of abuse and anger.
Elizabeth Ann Quill walked from court a convicted deadly driver, but there was no escaping the court of public opinion waiting outside.
You're in jail, Rachel! You've had your deserve more than this done, Rachel! You killed him and you died in me!
Furious friends of Jaden John Pearce lash out at the woman who slammed into him on Pipers River Road on Christmas Day 2018.
It's affected a lot of people, a hell of a lot of people.
Described as a cheeky man who loved his family, the teenager was a passenger in a vehicle with his best mate when an oncoming car driven by Quill veered onto the wrong side of the road, colliding head-on. Sadly, Jaden died in hospital 4 days later.
I don't understand why she's not in jail. She killed someone. How has she not been put in jail?
The judge said the seriousness of this offending called for a term of imprisonment, but due to the defendant's lack of prior convictions, she was entitled to a suspended sentence.
I'm not happy with the outcome that happened today because she should be in jail.
She will serve 3 months behind bars if she reoffends within 2 years. Cold comfort for a grieving family missing one of their own.
Our family is never going to be the same again.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
Melbourne is facing an alarming new COVID development, with health officials revealing the highly contagious strain of the virus is being passed on by what they describe as very fleeting contact, such as strangers brushing past each other. It has authorities so worried they're now listing suburban high streets as exposure sites.
Melbourne's test centre's in overdrive. This is Deer Park, the queue 2 kilometres, the only way to flush out mystery cases, which are now worryingly popping up after just brief contact with the virus.
A very active and dynamic situation. We've seen this thing morph 3 or 4 times already in the space of the last 8 days.
3 new cases to date, 2 already isolating. The third has a vague link to Port Melbourne's cluster. He lives near Stratton Finance, where several employees were infected last week, but there's no other connection.
There is evidence of casual acquisition instead of those in direct close contact like friends at a pub, family members.
It is entirely possible that we've seen this kind of fleeting contact in any of these locations, possibly others.
The 4th time a fleeting exposure led to infection in this outbreak, perhaps changing the way we classify contacts.
I don't like mystery cases because it's a real cause for concern that it's someone who's not on our network.
It can happen that way. I think it's actually reassuring that they're picking those crossover points up, even if they're not what we normally call those close contacts.
The up and down case numbers of this outbreak continue. There are now 54 total. There's a blunt assessment of lockdown ending on time.
I don't know if there's going to be an extension or not.
What's not a mystery is where this outbreak started.
South Australian hotel outbreak quarantine, South Australian hotel outbreak, the South Australian hotel breach.
More than 320 exposure alerts tonight, including 5 busy shopping centres. 317,000 tests have been done in the past 8 days.
This is the biggest outbreak we've seen in Australia this year.
Praise from the top today for Victoria's contact tracers.
They're getting on top of extremely large numbers of close contacts, casual contacts and secondary contacts. We're in the tens of thousands now.
The Chief Medical Officer also says the scaling up of testing has been extraordinary. Finally, a sign we're getting more things right. Blake Johnson, 7 News.
And our Premier says Victoria's lockdown should serve as a wake-up call to Tasmanians who may have become complacent. The COVID Safe app has been mandatory for businesses since May 1st, but authorities are preparing to crack down on those not taking the check-in process seriously.
It's the first thing you see when entering most restaurants, gyms and hotels.
Good morning. I'm well.
In Tasmania over the past month, there have been more than 3 million check-ins using the COVID Safe app.
Done.
A process that's been mandatory in the state since May 1.
It's about having the data available when we need it, should we need it.
But while more than 17,000 businesses are using the QR codes, there are still 6,000 yet to sign up.
It's a pretty easy process. Get onto the government website, fill in a form, generate the QR code and put it out there for people to use. It really isn't challenging.
The old wool store facing cancellations after borders closed with Victoria. Now Ben Target says it's crucial Tasmanians aren't complacent or the situation could become much worse.
Like in Victoria, it's going to get very serious very quickly if we have an outbreak.
If we couldn't contact trace and there was a major outbreak in Tasmania and we had to go into a lockdown, it would be devastating for Tasmanian businesses, it would be devastating for our economy.
Police are helping to educate businesses, but a warning of a crackdown. Those who ignore the rules could face fines of more than $700 for individuals and $5,000 for organisations.
It's not time consuming. It takes but a few seconds, and at the end of the day, it could save the life of someone that you love.
Urging Tasmanians to adapt to the new COVID normal. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
Work has started to remove unstable rocks from the Tasman Highway near Orford, but it remains unclear exactly how long the road will remain closed. The 1.5 kilometre section of road was completely shut on Friday, leaving residents isolated. Highway protections have now been put into place with special fabric and 2,000 tonnes of gravel laid to cushion the road. It will now take up to 3 days to clear vegetation to determine how much rock needs to be removed. A detour along Wailangta Road has also been upgraded to allow for the extra traffic. Tasmanians are being asked to help stomp out illicit drugs as part of Crime Stoppers Week. Police say tips provided by the public form a valuable part of efforts to stop trafficking.
Taking some time out from her job fighting crime, Una the police dog is asking the public to help authorities as part of Tasmanian Crime Stoppers Week. The hotline is being used more than ever.
27% increase over the 3 years, and that's a very conservative estimate because we had the COVID period, but 27% and 18% specifically with drugs.
This year's focus is on stopping illicit drug trade. The information provided with Crime Stoppers, highly valuable.
Sometimes it's that pearl that is we didn't know anything about. Often it is the piece of the jigsaw that we needed to provide the warrants and the things we needed, so we certainly rely on it quite heavily.
The organisation says 75% of their tips are made online now and are hoping it encourages younger people to use the service.
Online IT is a very easy way for them to communicate now.
Police pointing to recent high-profile cases as a reason to help.
It's all very well people coming forward after the event and saying, I should have done something. Or this is their chance to do something now, is to call in anonymously.
Despite the Spirit of Tasmania being one of the major trafficking routes into the state, sniffer dogs aren't permanently stationed at the port. However, police are increasing their presence there.
We are actually increasing our numbers of dogs over the next 12 months to 2 years through some recent elections.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Around 90,000 Tasmanians have a warm welcome to winter, with relief to their energy bill coming their way. $125 will be knocked off the bill for concession card holders, helping make heat a more affordable luxury.
In her role at Georgetown Neighbourhood House, Jess Berger knows winter is often feared.
There is so many people struggling to just survive in Georgetown, in the whole of Tasmania, that it'll make a big difference to them, especially coming into winter.
A $125 cut for concession, healthcare and veteran card holders' power bills this winter is now in effect.
$125 mightn't sound a lot, but by crikey, when you're trying to pay the bills every month, it really helps.
The scheme was promised during the state election at a cost of $12 million. Those who already have an annual concession on their bill will receive the cut automatically. If you're eligible but haven't applied for the concession yet, you'll need to do so by the end of August, while the state government is doubling funding of no-interest loans for much-needed winter products, such as heat pumps and clothes dryers.
We know through our loans what a massive difference that makes. Because the alternative to a nils loan is people will go to a rent-to-buy scheme or a payday lender to fund that.
Something which can plunge the vulnerable into a debt spiral.
Prior to COVID, Tasmania had the highest proportional growth in payday lending in Australia.
And as one final financial blanket, Aurora Energy's freeze on power disconnections announced during the pandemic is still ongoing. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
House prices continue to skyrocket, with homes in regional Tasmania now costing 18% more than last year. New CoreLogic data has revealed the average house price in Hobart has hit $617,000 and $415,000 in other regions. Across Australia, property values have jumped by 10% since May last year. The acting mayor of Glenorchy has put her hand up to permanently take on the top job in an electoral race against her former colleague. Beck Thomas has formally kicked off her mayoral campaign, the spot left empty after Christy Johnston was elected to Parliament last month. But as a former advisor to Sue Hickey, it will be a standoff for the role, with the ex-speaker also vying for mayor.
No ill feeling. Everybody has their reasons for what they do. It's the community's choice, and I very much respect whatever choice the community makes.
The Kingborough and West Coast councils are also searching for a mayor, with the polls closing for all 3 municipalities on July 20. Climate change, action, education opportunities and things to do. That's what Tasmanian young people want. As part of the new We Call It Happy report, more than 400 youth and 100 parents offered a glimpse into their lives. The consultation all about determining what they need to improve their well-being.
Personally, for me, it was the education, because I've been through different education systems before, like big picture education, and have found that there's not one mould of education works for everyone.
And wanting to have more say as students to influence the education system. That's something that I'm hoping to work with young people on more this year.
The report will help frame the development of a government child and youth wellbeing strategy. As we heard earlier, Tasmania's property market is booming, and 2 charities are hoping to reap the benefits. Dozens of generous locals have donated their time and resources to help build the new House of Hope, with proceeds from the sale split between 2 very worthy causes.
There's a new house on the market, but this property holds extra value.
All the proceeds of the sale of this house will be split equally between Variety and the Cancer Council.
Part of that funding to go to the Rachel and Jai Fund, a cause close to Andrew Clifford's heart.
We lost our daughter to leukaemia in 2003 and decided to set up a fund to assist families that go through the dislocation we went through.
We provide financial assistance to families who have a child who's been under 18 and diagnosed with cancer or has relapsed.
This is now the 3rd House of Hope, only made possible through donations and support from the community.
Much of the labour and materials has been donated by builders and tradesmen in the local area.
We've got a good business group and a good friendship group, and if we ask along, knowing where the money's going, they're only too willing to help, and it's just so humbling.
Those who want to tour the house will be able to this weekend.
On Saturday is the grand open home for us, so we have free sausage sizzle, we have free coffee van.
Set to be the real winners of Tasmania's booming property market. The house was only launched online yesterday, but 6 people have already expressed interest. Offers to be sorted through on Monday.
We may raise $300,000, and that's just amazing, and we're just so rapt.
One house set to make a big difference. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
North Launceston will be without Zach Burt for this weekend's game against Clarence after he was rubbed out for 1 match following this strike on Keegan Ryan during a marking contest. Burt's penalty was reduced from 2 games to 1 thanks to an early guilty plea. Tasmania's NBL1 teams will now face each other this weekend as most of the competition remains in lockdown. The Launceston Tornadoes and Northwest Thunder will now play the Hobart Chargers in a double header in Ulverston on Saturday night. Previously scheduled games against the Geelong Supercats will be played later on. No other NBL1 games will be staged this weekend. To Premier League hockey, OHA is mounting its title challenge nicely, racing to a 6-1 win over Diamondbacks. Sam McCambridge was in fine form, scoring a hat-trick, including a spectacular sweep off the back of the stick in the opening minutes.
Lucky how it eventuated with a slight mistake from the Diamondbacks player, but all you need is a couple of metres to get a shot away and win the back of the net.
Derwent remains top of the table in the men's despite drawing 2-2 with Canterbury, while Derwent's women's side had a gritty win to snap a 4-game losing streak.
Defensively, I thought we did really well. Very happy with the result. We ended up getting 2 goals into the back of the net.
Diamondbacks beat OHA 3-1.
Good evening everyone. A cloudy day today with Hobart reaching 15 degrees and Launceston, Burnie and Devonport all 14. Around the state, Friendly Beaches and Grove both 16, Flinders Island, Smithton, St Helens and Ouse 15 degrees, and 14 in Low Head and Strawn. Low-level cloud can be seen over most of Tasmania today, except the southeast, where patchy cloud is visible. Across Australia, a large band of low to mid-level cloud lies over the southeast of the country, while low-level cloud moves over the southern coast of Western Australia. The rest of the country is relatively cloud-free. Tomorrow's chart shows a slow-moving high sitting over the west of the Tasman Sea, extending a ridge over most of the eastern seaboard. A trough extends from a low near Adelaide through central Australia. Northwesterly winds tomorrow 10 to 20 knots, reaching up to 20 to 30 knots in the southwest. 16 degrees and cloudy in Hobart and Geeveston tomorrow, Bothwell 15 and partly cloudy. Cloudy and 16 in Launceston, Devonport and Cressy both reaching 15. A top of 15 degrees for Burnie and Strawn tomorrow, both cloudy, 16 degrees in Curry. St Helens 16 and cloudy, Swansea reaching 17 and 15 and cloudy in Orford. On Thursday, showers mainly about the north, west and far south, with snow to around 900 metres in the evening. Showers on Friday, mainly about the north, west and far south, with possible hail in the south and the west. And on Saturday, those showers continuing with fresh and gusty winds. Partly cloudy and 20 in Perth tomorrow, a shower or two in Adelaide, 16 in Canberra, partly cloudy in Sydney and Brisbane, and 32 degrees in Darwin. And currently Hobart mostly cloudy and 13 degrees, cloudy and 11 in Launceston, and cloudy and 12 in Devonport. And Kim, it's certainly cool outside.
Okay, it sure is. Thanks very much, Chelsea. And that's all your news for this, the first day of June. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us this evening. Good night.